Is the Omega Speedmaster Chronoscope a power play for the brand? Or is it moving in a direction that may lose its cult following? Let's talk about it today in the news. So it goes without saying that the Omega Speedmaster is probably the most successful lineup of watches for the Omega brand. Omega has had some success with the coveted Seamaster, the Aquaterra, and others, but nothing on the scale of the Omega Speedmaster. So when we see the latest release that came out a few months back by Omega with the Chronoscope, the question that I pose is this the right movement for the direction of such a prolific line? Or is this changing directions in a way that could lose its cult following? What's interesting about the Chronoscope is that not only did they take a different position on the design of the actual dial, the functionality of the watch, but they also switched out the movement and went in a totally different direction that we normally don't see, which is moving from a automatic watch to a mechanical wind watch that requires you to wind after a certain amount of days. Now, at first glance at the watch, you obviously can see it does not look anything like the traditional Omega Speedmasters. But in one breath, it appears that it's almost answering the question that many of us who have Omega Speedies have talked about, whether it be the additional types of scales such as a pulsometer or a telemeter, or even the design of the tachymeter. So this watch actually gives you all three. Now, is that overkill, or is it meeting the needs of what your clientele has asked for? There's a number of different variations of this watch, which I would probably say I gravitate more to the white with blue accents over some of the other versions that I've seen online. But at any account, moving into a 43 millimeter size case, which is actually going a bit large, and also the decision to go with a new caliber. So let's dig into the caliber and let's talk a little bit about the overall look of the watch. Now, I will say that when you take a glance at this new case, you will find that there has been no exceptions made in terms of finishing and quality of the design. The Omega Speedmaster, and actually the official name is the Chronoscope Coaxial Master Chronometer Chronograph. That's a whole lot, say that 3 times. This is a watch that comes in at 43 millimeters, 12.8 millimeters in thickness. It is a METAS certified watch, which means that it's a master chronometer certified movement. This is a hand wound movement, and this is actually a movement that was based off of the original caliber 9900, but because it's a hand wound movement, this is called the caliber 9908. It's a 44 jewel movement that runs at 28,800 BPHs. Now, when you flip the back over, you sort of lose your breath here. This is what Omega is calling their arabesque version of the Geneva stripes, which this is a first for the company to kind of move into certain levels of finishing, which kind of makes me wonder, is this going to be the new direction for Omega? Now, the cool thing about this watch is that it's actually not a limited edition, so it's going to be a production run type of watch. There are 7 different variations, with the highest variation coming in just above 14,000, which is a combination of bronze and gold version for us to kind of consider. So overall, what do I think of the watch? I think if you're the type of collector that appreciates vintage style military watches, this is a great nod to the past. Watches that were used for a number of different reasons, whether it be capturing time from a military standpoint, capturing time related to heart rate, capturing time for racing or the lapse of time. All in all, I think that this gives you more than enough flexibility and versatility when it comes to kind of having that next level tool watch. Is it a busy dial? Yes, I definitely think that it is. However, you can appreciate all of the effort that Omega put into the watch. And at the end of the day, it looks great. Now, one thing that I keep thinking of is this really a Speedy? And I kind of feel like it's not. In my opinion, and again, it's just me on a quick rant, I think Omega knew that they wanted to go in this direction, but were a little hesitant to dip their toe into the water with rolling out a new model, right? So at the end of the day, everyone knows Speedmaster. Everyone flocks when you hear the name of Speedmaster. Everyone wants to know what's coming out. So to come out with this type of a watch where you've put, for the first time, a certain level of finishing into the watch, you're trying a brand new movement, you're moving into a space where you're going away from automatic and going to kind of that historical mechanical wind style movement. You're going with a very impressive style finishing on your bracelet. I think they were a little gun shy and said, hey, let's just continue to go with this type of watch aligned to the Speedmaster. But I don't feel any connectivity to the original versions of Speedmasters in the past to this watch. But hey, at the end of the day, it's Omega. And if you stamp a Speedmaster statement on it, it's a Speedy. Will it shift anything in the direction? It kind of depends. If the traditional design of the Speedmaster is now a figment of our imagination, it could begin to spike prices up for original style versions of Speedmasters, which we know we've seen with Rolex. As they begin to move away and discontinue certain models, prices tend to go up. I would be cautious, and I kind of don't think they're going to go that way. I think this is kind of a test. I think they're challenging themselves a little bit, but also waiting to see how will the market respond. Now, I'll be honest. I'm definitely the type of watch enthusiast that loves to find a reason to speculate just because it excites me about where a brand could potentially be going or what a brand could be potentially doing. Two different things that I see with this watch that I think is worth noting, at least in my opinion. First is the actual design cues that they chose to go onto the watch. I think it's testing the water to kind of see should Omega begin to go further back into its archives and pull forward certain design elements that are reflected in their heritage. If you think about the early 1930s, early 1940s, there were Omega designs that are definitely a nod to or helping influence this watch that we see today. So I think that's an interesting play that Omega may also be trying to consider. We've seen tremendous success with brands like Longines that continues to release re-editions. We've seen that with Tag Heuer and some of the others. So I think there might be a little bit of a play there. Again, just my speculation and my normal rant in this space. The second one is actually the fact that they chose to go with a movement design that I think is actually sort of playing up against maybe some of the German brands in terms of their designs of their mechanical wind movements. All of us in the past have seen some of the beautiful movements that Omega has had in terms of mechanical winds. I'm wearing my Omega Speedmaster Professional that comes with the mechanical wind movement. And when I think of this design to what I'm seeing here on the Caliber 9908, two totally different stratospheres. I'm also seeing a level of finishing for the first time in a direction that Omega has never chosen to go. So when I think about Omega kind of maybe asking themselves, hey, how do we become even more competitive when we're dealing with amazing design and finishing from brands like Flashuta Original, from A-Long and Zona, and then we're dealing with the cult-like pulse of, let's say, Tudor and their love of the Black Bay Chrono and things like that. And so when I look at like the dial variation, moving away from 3 sub-dials and going with 2 in this Chronoscope, I also think they're trying to make a play against Tudor, who just recently pushed out their Panda dial variations of their chronographs. So I think Omega is trying to test the water to see if its following will align with this new direction, and they're also trying to stay competitive. I mean, historically, most of us will say, if you've seen one Speedy, you've seen them all. And I think this also kind of challenges it. So time will just kind of tell, and we'll see if they will continue to kind of build on this, or if they'll result back to kind of the original design cues and elements that we've seen historically from Omega as it relates to the Speedmaster. I'd love to know your thoughts. Let me know what you think about the watch. Do you approve of the fact that they went away from an automatic movement and went to a mechanical wind? Do you appreciate the new finishing, their arabesque style design and finishing that they put on their movement. Are you excited for this watch? Do you appreciate the case size, or is it going too big? But drop a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. Again, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. As always, it truly helps the channel to grow, and I can continue to bring you exciting content in the future. Well, with that being said, everyone, take care, and I'll see you later.